clod, and the very skylarks singing hard as if for joy." "Ay," said John Bush, "and look up village street to the plough horse, and see thy Gregory and my Will and their mates pouring down ale to drink a health to it, and to her Grace, and to my Lord Duke, and to the fine court doctors, and to the nurses, and to the chaplain, and to old Rowe who waits about to be ready to ring a peal on the church bells. They'll find toasts enough, I'll warrant." "That they will," said Dame Watt, but she chuckled good-naturedly, as if she held no grudge against ale-drinking for this one day at least. 'Twas true the men found toasts enough, and were willing to drink them as they would have been to drink even such as were less popular. These, in sooth, were near their hearts, and there was reason why they should be, no nobleman being more just and kindly to his tenants than his Grace of Osmonde, and no lady more deservedly beloved and looked up to with admiring awe than his young Duchess, now being tenderly watched over at Camylott Tower by one of Queen Catherine's own physicians and a score of assistants, nurses, and underlings. Even at this moment William Bush was holding forth to the company gathered about the door of the plough horse, he having risen from the oaken bench at its threshold to have his pewter tankard filled again. "'Tis not alone Duke he will be," quoth he, "but with titles and estates enough to make a man feel like King Charles himself. 'Tis thus he will be writ down in history, as his Grace his father hath been before him, Duke of Osmonde, Marquis of Roxholm, Earl of Osmonde, Earl of Marlow, Baron Dorlock of Paulin, and Baron Merton of Charleroi." "Can a man then be 6 men at once?" said Gregory Watt. "Ay, and each of him be master of a great house and rich estate." "'Tis so with this one. 'Tis said the court itself waits to hear the news." Stout Tom Comfort broke forth into a laugh. "'Tis not often the court waits," says he, "to hear news so honest. At Camylott Tower lies one Duchess whom King Charles did not make, thank God, but was made one by her husband." Will Bush set down his tankard with a smack upon the table before the sitting bench. "She had but once appeared at Whitehall when his Grace met her and fell deep in love that hour," he said. "'Twas not rumoured," said Tom Comfort, somewhat lowering his voice, "that he cast glances her way as he cast them at every young beauty brought before him, and that his Grace could scarce hold his tongue, king or no king?" "Ay," said Will Bush sharply, "his royal glance fell on her, and he made a jest on what a man's joy would be whose fortune it was to see her violet eyes melt in love. And his Grace went to her mother, the Lady Elspeth, and besought her to let him proffer his vows to the young lady, and she was his Duchess in 10 months' time, and Madame Carwell had come from France, and in a year was made Duchess of Portsmouth." "Heard you not that she too, some 3 weeks past," quoth Comfort, who was as fond of gossip as an old woman. "17 days gone," put in Bush, "and 'twas dead, by Heaven's mercy. Poor brat! They say she loses her looks, and that his Majesty tires of her, and looks already toward other quarters." And so they sat over their ale and gossiped, they being supplied with anecdote by his Grace's gentleman's gentleman, who was fond of court life, and found the country tiresome, and whose habit it was to spend an occasional evening at the plough horse for the pleasure of having even an audience of yokels, liking it the better since, being yokels, they would listen open-mouthed and staring by the hour to his swagger and stories of Whitehall and Hampton Court, and the many beauties who surrounded the sacred person of his most gracious Majesty, King Charles II. Every yokel in the country had heard rumours of these ladies, but Mr. Mount gave those at Camylott village details which were often true and always picturesque. "What could be expected," he would say, "of a man who had lived in gay exile through his first years, and then of a sudden was made a king, and had all the beauties of England kneeling before him, and he with a squat, black, long-toothed